Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the most significant stories shaping the world of tech and business. Before we jump into today's main topic, just a quick recommendation for any history buffs listening. We wanted to highlight Hui Wang's fantastic A History of China series. It's out now on Amazon.
Oh, that's a great show. Really comprehensive stuff.
Yeah, it covers Chinese history right up through the Northern Song period. Super insightful, really well researched. You can grab it as an ebook or paperback.
Definitely worth checking out if you're into that period. A really valuable resource.
Absolutely. And also, just a quick heads up for all of you listening, we're actually going to be taking a short break.
That's right.
From July 20th to July 24th, we'll be back with fresh deep dives right after that.
So mark your calendars. We won't be gone long.
Okay, now let's get into today's main event. We're exploring something, well, kind of wild. A contract clause that honestly sounds like science fiction, but it's very real.
Billions of dollars riding on it, too.
Exactly. We're talking about the unique and increasingly controversial artificial general intelligence AGI clause. It's part of the big partnership between Microsoft and OpenAI.
And this isn't just some minor detail buried in the fine print.
No way. This clause could totally upend Microsoft's massive $13 billion investment. Some analysts have even, well, bluntly called it potentially a joke.
It's a fascinating setup. So AGI, just quickly, we're talking about AI that can perform, a broad range of intellectual tasks, basically, as well as, or maybe even better than, humans.
Right. So our mission today is to really unpack this complex betting clause, as you called it, understand what it means for both companies, and figure out why it's causing these really urgent renegotiations right now.
Exactly. It's a high-stakes game based on a future technology.
Okay, so let's start before AGI even enters the picture. How does this partnership work day to day? What does Microsoft actually get for that huge $13 billion check they wrote?
Well, right now, Microsoft has exclusive commercial rights, but only to OpenAI's non-AGI models. Think things like GPT-4, GPT-4o.
The stuff we see powering Copilot, Azure AI services, even Bing search.
Exactly. If OpenAI develops something that isn't considered AGI, Microsoft basically gets the first shot at using it commercially. It's a huge advantage for them, letting them weave this AI into everything they do.
Okay, so they get the models, but there's also this cloud binding agreement I've read about. What's that about? Sounds like Microsoft has a lot of control over OpenAI's backend.
They do. It's a very tight arrangement. OpenAI is contractually required to offer Microsoft first dibs on its cloud computing business. So if OpenAI needs more power, more infrastructure,
they have to ask Microsoft first.
They must go to Microsoft first. Then Microsoft has a deadline to decide if they want that business.
And if Microsoft says yes?
Then OpenAI has to use Azure. No shopping around. The only way OpenAI can use another cloud provider is if Microsoft actually declines the business or just doesn't respond in time.
Wow. That's quite the grip.
It is. Although, there's a key part, the fair transaction principle. Prices have to be reasonable. It's meant to stop either side using the cloud deal to, sneak funds around or hurt shareholders. It needs to be transparent.
Got it. Okay, so exclusive non-AGI models, a strong preference for Azure. Let's talk money. How does the profit sharing work for that $13 billion? Because that's a huge sum.
It is, and the structure is, well, unusual. It's based on profits, not revenue, which is important. Microsoft gets 75%, 3/4 of OpenAI's profits.
75%.
Until when?
Until their initial $13 billion investment is fully paid back.
Okay, and after they get their $13 billion back, does it just stop?
No, it continues, but it changes. After that point, Microsoft's share drops to 49% of the profits. But there's another twist. There's a cap.
A cap?
Yeah, a lifetime cap. The total return Microsoft can ever get from this deal is capped at $130 billion. That's 10 times their initial investment. Once they hit that $130 billion ceiling, that's it. No more profit share for Microsoft.
10 times. That's still a massive potential return. Huge potential, yes, but capped. And remember, OpenAI itself is still officially a nonprofit at its core. Microsoft doesn't hold any actual equity, no stock, in that nonprofit entity.
Right. That nonprofit structure adds another layer of complexity. And I also heard there's a restriction on Microsoft during this agreement.
Yes, a significant one. While this deal is active, Microsoft is forbidden from training its own models that are capable of reaching AGI.
So they're betting entirely on OpenAI for the AGI race, at least for now.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They put their own AGI development on hold, contractually speaking, to focus on leveraging OpenAI's current tech. It's a big strategic constraint.
Okay, so that's the normal state of play. Exclusive rights to non-AGI, the Azure lock-in, the capped profit share, Microsoft's research on hold. But then comes the AGI trigger. The moment OpenAI says, we've done it, we've built AGI. What happens then? You said it's like a trap door opens.
It is dramatic. The instant AGI is officially achieved, according to the agreement, Microsoft loses its exclusive rights to any future AGI models from OpenAI.
So they'd be stuck with the older tech.
Pretty much. They could keep using the non-AGI models like GPT-4, but anything new, anything truly AGI, nope, exclusivity gone. OpenAI would also be completely free to use any cloud provider they want. Bye-bye, Azure application.
And the money. The profit sharing.
That ends too. Immediately. No more 75% or 49% share for Microsoft from that point on. It just stops.
Wow. But then Microsoft is free again.
Exactly. The restriction on Microsoft doing its own AGI research lifts. They can dive back in fully.
Okay, but the absolute core of this controversy, the really thorny part, is who decides, okay, this is AGI. Who flips that switch?
And this is where it got really controversial. Originally, the power rested solely with OpenAI's board. They alone could declare AGI achieved.
Microsoft had no say at all.
Initially, none. Think about that risk. OpenAI's board could unilaterally decide, yep, it's AGI, and boom, Microsoft loses access to the next generation of AI, loses all future profit share from their $13 billion bet overnight.
That does sound like a potential joke, financially speaking. A multi-billion-dollar investment that the other party can just switch off the returns for.
Precisely. That was the massive vulnerability that caused so much concern, especially when the timelines started to diverge.
Right, the timeline issue. Microsoft was apparently planning for AGI maybe post-2030, right? Giving them years to get their money back and profit.
That seems to have been their internal forecast, yes. Plenty of runway. But then you have OpenAI CEO Sam Altman suggesting publicly that AGI might be just months away, or maybe a year or two.
Months versus years, that's a huge gap.
A massive gap. And that discrepancy, that sudden acceleration in OpenAI's view, is what really triggered these urgent renegotiations we're seeing. Microsoft clearly saw the risk, their investment potentially becoming far less valuable, far sooner than expected, based on a decision they couldn't influence.
So this AGI clause, it's not like a normal contract term tied to, say, hitting a revenue target. You called it a betting clause on a vision. How do you even define AGI legally? It seems so fuzzy.
It is fuzzy.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it legally unique and tricky. OpenAI's own charter tries to define it. It talks about a system with high autonomy that outperforms humans in most economically valuable work.
Most economically valuable work. That still sounds incredibly broad.
It is very broad. It covers a huge range of human abilities. Pinpointing the exact moment a system crosses that threshold, that's incredibly difficult, both technically and legally.
And I understand OpenAI has its own internal way of thinking about this, right? Some kind of scale.
Yes, they apparently discussed an internal 5-level scale for AI progress at a company meeting. Just to give you a sense, current models like GPT-4, they're considered level 2 on this scale. That's like doctorate level reasoning in specific areas.
Okay, level 2, where does AGI fit in?
Well, the next step, GPT-5, is expected to hit level 3. That involves things like multi-day reasoning, executing tasks across different fields, think autonomous agents doing complex jobs over time.
So still not quite AGI.
Probably not true AGI by their definition. AGI likely falls at level 4, where the AI can achieve independent innovation, maybe help invent new things, or even level 5, where it could operate at the scale of an entire large company.
And how do they even measure that? Test scores?
It's a mix. They use benchmark tests, some really tough ones like ARC, which is sometimes called the ultimate human test. But it's also combined with performance on real-world complex tasks. And crucially, the system has to operate stably and reliably in a production environment, not just in a lab.
Okay, so with OpenAI talking about AGI potentially being closer and this fuzzy definition controlled only by their board, Microsoft must have moved to protect itself, right? Before these current renegotiations even started.
Absolutely. They saw the risk mounting. In 2023, they proactively negotiated and signed a crucial amendment to the original agreement.
An amendment? What did it change?
It added some serious guardrails. First, it stipulated that for AGI to be declared, the system must be capable of generating a massive $100 billion in profit. Not just revenue, profit.
$100 billion in profit. That's a huge hurdle.
A very high bar. And it needs to be backed by a credible business model, market analysis. It can't just be a theoretical capability. But here's the most critical part. Microsoft gained reasonable consent rights over this determination.
So OpenAI can't just declare AGI anymore, even if it hits that profit level.
Exactly. They need Microsoft's agreement. Microsoft now has a say, a kind of veto power over the AGI declaration itself. That was a massive shift in control back towards Microsoft.
And why was that so vital for Microsoft? Especially given OpenAI isn't profitable yet.
Because OpenAI is still losing money, reportedly quite a bit annually. Microsoft and the other investors needed assurance they'd actually get a significant return on their investment before this potentially lucrative profit-sharing arrangement could just be switched off. Without that profit threshold and their consent right, they were exposed to OpenAI hitting AGI, maybe becoming hugely profitable, after the profit share had already ended. This amendment helps ensure Microsoft gets paid back and potentially makes a serious return first.
Okay, so Microsoft clawed back some control with that 2023 amendment. But now, with the timeline still seemingly accelerating, they're pushing for more. What's the leverage now in these current talks?
Their leverage is significant. Microsoft is reportedly pushing to restructure the whole AGI clause further. And they can do this by it essentially using their influence to slow down or block things OpenAI needs.
Like what? New funding.
Exactly. New investment rounds, potentially major corporate restructuring efforts OpenAI might want to undertake. Because OpenAI is still reliant on external funding to operate and grow its massive research efforts, they need investor approval, especially from their biggest backer, Microsoft, to move forward on big strategic or financial moves.
So Microsoft can basically say, we won't approve this next funding round or this corporate change until we agree on revising this AGI clause.
That appears to be the dynamic. It gives Microsoft strong leverage to bring OpenAI back to the table and hash out a more palatable AGI arrangement.
Given how core AGI is to OpenAI's mission, it feels unlikely they'd agree to remove the clause entirely, right? It's part of their DNA.
Very unlikely it gets removed completely. That AGI escape clause is tied to their foundational dream of building AGI for humanity's benefit, theoretically beyond typical corporate profit motives. But will it be revised? Absolutely. It has to become less, well, odd and more conventional.
So what's the most crucial change we expect to see come out of these talks?
The absolute key change will likely be Microsoft getting a formal vote, maybe even significant weight, in the actual determination of when AGI is achieved, moving beyond just reasonable consent to having a direct say, perhaps as part of a joint committee or through board representation. That lack of a vote was the original glaring vulnerability.
And what about the other parts of the deal? Microsoft's access to models, the Azure cloud stuff.
Those will likely be adjusted too. Microsoft will probably keep broad access to OpenAI models, but maybe with less absolute exclusivity or control.
Yeah.
OpenAI might gain more autonomy in deciding exactly which models or capabilities get shared under what terms.
And Azure. Will OpenAI finally get to comparison shop for cloud services?
Azure will almost certainly remain a huge partner, given the scale involved. But the rigid requirement might soften. Maybe OpenAI gains the ability to use other providers if they offer genuinely better pricing or performance, shifting it from Microsoft's unilateral decision to something more like a mutual agreement based on fair market quotes.
And Microsoft's own AGI research.
That restriction will almost certainly go away as part of this reset. Microsoft will be free to pursue its own AGI path fully. And we'll likely see governance changes too. Microsoft probably getting a board seat in whatever new corporate structure emerges for OpenAI, maybe special dividend rights tied to new stock classes, ensuring they get priority payouts or a larger slice based on their investment.
It really sounds like a negotiated settlement is the only way forward. A big legal fight seems like it would just hurt everyone involved.
Oh, it would be incredibly damaging for both sides.
Yeah.
A lawsuit puts Microsoft's $13 billion and its reputation on the line. For OpenAI, it could choke off the funding they desperately need to survive and continue their research. Investor confidence would plummet. Neither side really wins in that scenario.
So a deal is almost inevitable, really.
It seems highly likely. Both have too much to lose. They need to find a workable middle ground.
So wrapping this up, it looks like the AGI clause, this unique centerpiece of the deal, will survive. But it'll be transformed into something more balanced, more conventional. Microsoft gains real influence over that critical AGI trigger, protecting its massive bet.
Exactly. It moves from a somewhat precarious unilateral switch held by OpenAI to a more standard partnership arrangement where major decisions impacting billions require mutual agreement. But it does leave us with one final, pretty mind-bending thought for you to consider.
Go on.
If AGI does arrive soon, maybe even in the next few years, as some at OpenAI seem to believe, it's possible that all these intricate legal structures, these complex financial agreements we've spent all this time dissecting, they might just become completely irrelevant almost overnight. A world with true AGI could operate so differently that today's corporate deals and profit motives just don't apply in the same way. The ground rules for society itself could fundamentally change.
That's definitely something to think about. A world transformed beyond current contracts. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Remember our short break from July 20th to 24th. We look forward to our next deep dive with you right after that.